Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our neck of the woods. So this video is going to start out that today we have our first inspection and I'm a little nervous. So I'm confident that we'll do fine in the inspection. It's always nerve-wracking. I've only had one before, so actually this is the second inspection by the county. But the first one was really easy. We just threw the forms up for the footers, placed all the rebar, and then really they only came out and inspected that we had to have an electric grounding rod wired to the rebar. Back to the inspection, today is garage only. Now when I called, they're like, framing gets done all at once for all of the framing. And I was like, well, unfortunately, I just need the garage inspected and framed approved, because we want to start working on basically getting the insulation up, because you need the insulation first before you put up drywall. And then of course you need the garage doors put on. Well, I need the garage doors put on, and after all the tracking and everything goes on, I don't want to have to remove that tracking and move the garage doors by putting the drywall on next. So if we insulate now, we can do that after the framing inspection has been done. Then we can throw up the drywall, then we can put on the garage doors, and this garage can finally be insulated, and I can even put a little heater out here and start to warm it up. We will put on the man door, and then we can also start putting on the ceiling. So again, the framing has to be approved first. Now, I think the next thing will be to set up an inspection for all of this electrical. I don't know if they'll just want to come out and do that too, because really the box isn't ready to go 100%, although we could tidy up the box and get everything done like this week or this weekend. But I think if we went and spray foamed on a warm day here, it would be okay, because we still aren't 100% what we're going to do with insulation. I'm pretty set kind of right now on closed cell, about 2 to 3 inches. And as you can see, 2 to 3 inches is not going to encroach on any of our wiring. So if they spray it in right about to here, you can still see all of the wiring, and the electrician can't yell at us because the framing's already been done, and the electrical inspection, everything can be easily accessible and seen. Which brings us to another thing today we're going to do is we've got a spray foam guy coming out around 4 p.m. I did email him and gave him the rough dimensions of the wall, but I want him to come out and do a more exact measurement. Not to mention, I want to quote on a little bit more, which is him to look at this wall up here to know that that wall is very short, only about 4 feet tall for those bays. Now that we've got the air channels in, I want him to make sure he understands the calculation up there. So they spray the underside of that air channel on top of the double top plate, next to each truss, and then of course hitting the blocking in there so you completely seal that so no air can come through there except up through the air channel. So I need him to calculate that. And then of course we need to calculate everything on the ceiling. Once we put the ceiling up, we're not going to get any insulation in there because the floor is already on. So there's 9.5 inches of insulation that we could put up there underneath of the floor. And I don't know if we're going to do closed cell or open cell up there because it's on the ceiling and not an exterior wall. So I need a more expert opinion for them to come out and give me a quote. Also quote wise, oh wow, I just noticed our floor looks like completely dried out. I'm gonna show a video in a second where I started doing our furring strips on the inside, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. But if you look at the video from last night as I was putting up these furring strips, this OSB still looked crazy wet. It's been raining the last 2 days, so the humidity was like 90%, but that's insane. It's only been like 8 hours or something, and the floor looks like it's completely dried out for the first time in I don't know how long, months. It just looked like super dark brown wet, and we're finally roughed in. That is so awesome that I don't have to worry about this subfloor anymore. So back to these furring strips real quick. I started putting them up, and as you'll see in the video, I went pretty fast. What you don't see on video is one night I came out here because I was bored, and I marked 16 inches on center against that back top plate there, and I marked 16 inches on center for this one stud here, or this one truss. And then I threw some nails up right on that mark, so I could look over at the wall, see the edge of the board hit that mark, and then push the board against the nail this way, and was able to just walk those out real quick and nail them all up. And then because I didn't have a nailing surface on this side, I nailed a 2x down to the top plate, and then put the furring strip up against that 2x and nailed it up there. So now when you push up this way against the drywall, that furring strip isn't like bending up into nothing. It's got something to actually stop it now. So why are we doing the furring strips? I've talked about this before, but let me just explain it one more time real quick. In Ohio, our minimum code is an R49. Well, the problem is with insulation is it usually settles over time. Obviously on a ceiling, gravity is gonna pull it down a little bit. And what ends up happening is you may start at an R49, and what we plan on doing is batt insulation, rock wool in the ceiling, and then blow in the rest with cellulose. Well, even cellulose or fiberglass over time is going to settle. So if you blow in 8.5 inches of cellulose, plus the R30 batt, that will get us to an R60. Well, whatever code may be, where you live, if you blow in an R60, in a year or two, you're not gonna have an R60. That's gonna compress a little bit and you're gonna lose that. So if we were to go with an R49 in Ohio, you lay a batt, blow in however many inches you need for the R49, it's gonna sink. You no longer have an R49. So we're shooting for an R60. So that's gonna carry extra weight on top of our drywall. And because our trusses are 24 inches on center, that's a decent span for that drywall to be spanning, and then to put more weight on it than what is normally recommended or what normally people do. So by putting the furring strips 16 inches on center, you're obviously getting your screws a heck of a lot closer. So now the drywall is a lot more secure. It has a lot more screws in it than if it was just screwed up there. So to go ahead and put an R30 batt plus the 8.5 inches of blown in cellulose to get us that R60, it's gonna be a lot stronger of a ceiling that you're not gonna have any sagging in the drywall because you've got everything so much closer together. The other bonus for furring strips, of course, is you've got 2.5 inches of nailing surface. I absolutely hate 1.5-inch studs. I wish everything went back to the old school ways where all wood was an actual 2x4. The roof sheathing already gave me enough of a headache by only being 1.5 inches, and you're having to cheek it one way or another, and you're just barely hitting it, or you gotta send a nail or a screw in at an angle, and I just hate that. So by us going with these 1x3s, we've got 2.5 inches of nailing surface now that if I bring two pieces of drywall into each other and I'm a little bit off, it doesn't matter. I've got 2.5 inches versus 1.5. So to review that one more time, we're putting in more insulation than what is normal. So it's gonna be a heavier weight, and I don't feel comfortable with a heavier weight with a 24-inch span on my drywall. I don't wanna see my drywall sagging one day, even though ceiling drywall is supposed to be 5/8. So by bringing it down to 16 inches on center, plus a bigger nailing surface, that drywall has more support over a shorter distance. So it can support the weight, and it's just gonna make life 10 times easier for me for installation because I don't have to worry about anything not hitting. And again, wish us luck for the inspection, and hopefully the spray foam quote goes good because that stuff is a little scary if you don't get it right. Hey everybody, welcome back. So we failed our first inspection. I was kind of planning on it. Obviously, I don't know everything. Not a big deal. Nothing that I can't knock out probably in about an hour. It's just adding in some more 2x4s. So the spec sheet for the trusses, let's start with the gable end first here. It shows that on 7 of these middle trusses, there needs to be a 2x4 basically attached to here, and it shows that it's coming out this way. Well, I've got nothing to attach to. Like this one here, yeah, you're kind of close to this 2x right here, but this 2x right here, there's absolutely nothing. It's a big open room. So there's nothing that I can bring a 2x here out and secure it to so that this gable end wall doesn't basically like bow in like that with a strong wind. So what they requested that I do that will be fine is across all 7 of these 2x's, I'm gonna take a 2x4 and just nail it right to this. Then I'm gonna take another 2x4 this way and lay it on top and nail it down into that 2x4 that's now spanning all of this. That way, strong wind does, he called it a support back or a rigid back. So that way when wind blows on this gable end here, it can't bow in because you've got that 2x sitting 3.5 inches out this way, and that will allow it not to bow in. So we'll knock that out. And yes, it does say lateral bracing required here. That's basically what that was for. But I thought these lateral braces here and the ones down here, which is where my sheathing was attached to, I thought that was kind of taking the place of that, but that's what they want because that's what it says in the blueprints. So we're gonna go ahead and knock that out real quick. All right, first failed mistake, went ahead and put the strong back in. So again, now with this 2x connected to that 2x, this wall can't bow anymore. And right where I had the gap here, both on the bottom one there, I went ahead and put this little piece over top of it so those can't split apart. And then I put another one on top so that that one can't split apart. So that was probably overkill, but now this wall should be a heck of a lot stronger. Not to mention the blueprints say you only have to do 7 trusses, which would have stopped right there and would have stopped right there. But we went to 8 and we went to 9. So now we're a little bit stronger and this wall is a little bit more secure. The other thing is I've seen my blueprints 2 different ways. What I printed out a while ago and what was more recent. And this isn't a failure or anything, but those 4 2x4s up in there running this way, that we connected the tops of the peaks to. It says on those ones that I only needed 3, but we've got 4 in there. So that's not a failure, but what the blueprints are showing for these garage trusses here, or for the attic, is in this little triangle right here, they want some more 2x going across there. So basically right underneath of that gusset, they want a 2x spanning and connecting all of these garage attic trusses together. Again, to me that seems pointless because you've already got all of those 2x's right up there on top of the main truss, underneath of the peak. So what do you need another one for when there's a 2x right above my head and they want me to add a little 2x only about 8 to 10 inches over on the inside of that. So that's on the engineers who made these attic trusses. So it is what it is, but I just need to run some across there and throw them in, and I guess it's whatever. All right, so the next one needs to be 2x's on these inner V's right here. Obviously I can't do anything on this wall over here because that V on that common truss is already supported. There's nothing more that this wall needs done, he said, because these V's are completely nailed into that sheathing all the way down that entire wall. So those are locked in solid. So these 3 right here, I guess I just need a 2x on the inside right here, and I need one over here also. And I guess technically I can cut those long and go over there, and that will also help that gable end from not pushing in because it can be supported by these 3 also. These are now connected as they're supposed to be, and again, I went ahead and nailed them into the wall there and there. So now that way, there is no more lateral movement this way with all of these trusses. And again, now you've got the span of basically 4 trusses that this gable end wall here in the middle can't push into because it's pushing against all of these. Blueprints are only showing the lateral reinforcements. It's not showing any diagonal for like racking purposes. Now we put in some lateral bracing or diagonal bracing on the inside of the house, but out here, you know, so this wouldn't fall over or anything, we really only had these ones down here, and we had some running across up in there that I went ahead and stole and used. So they want some lateral bracing every 10 feet up on the ceiling, basically from that outside gable end wall on that gusset, and they want it to come across diagonally every 10 feet up on these main trusses and all in the house. So it's only every 10 feet, and they only want it to span 3 trusses. So gable end, corner, going over to truss number 3 corner, and then I guess if you come in 10 feet, you'll pick like this one, and again, you'd go from diagonal truss number 3 over to this one, so call that truss number 1, or whichever way you're running it, and then we'll probably only need 3 of those for the garage. So again, we would go from the common truss here and that gable end to try to come over to this gable end here, and that's just something that they required. That he says it's in the truss pack, but the trusses that I'm looking at are only showing my trusses on a view looking at it like this, and not a view like this where they're showing those, and he provided a spare copy for me. Okay, that should be it. And then to even satisfy him a little bit more, I ran these braces up here, and now they're connected up to the V's up there. So that will help with racking this way. But again, not 100% due to the fact that the attic trusses stop right here, and they don't continue on that way to that gable end. But it's something at least. But they're up in there where they're supposed to be. We've got the diagonal braces up here. We've got the end wall there on the gable end, so we should be good to go. So I think I just have to call him back out here again, have him verify that. He can sign off, and then we'll be good to go. Right now, the spray foam guy just texted me, so he's on his way. So I'll be back in a second and give you guys that quote once we find out how expensive that's gonna be. Welcome back. So it's been 2 days since the first inspector came, and you guys saw me just throw up all those boards and everything to pass. This morning, another inspector came out and looked at the notes that I had to do, looked up there, verified everything, and we signed off on framing. So the garage is done. We can go ahead and insulate. I do not have the quote yet, but the first quote that I got from them before they actually came out, just for the front wall, back wall, and the wall here for the garage doors, they gave me a price of about $1,800. Now I'm assuming it's somewhere around $2 a square foot if you add that up and divide it. So to go ahead and add up in here for the blocking and everything, and then underneath of the ceiling here, I'm figuring it's going to be somewhere around $2,500, $2,600 to do the garage completely. So that's what I expect. I don't know what's taking him so long, but like I said, I think that's what it's going to be. Now that is on closed cell spray foam, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. Again, I think it's a little bit of an overkill that we did the 2x8 wall, but again, not really, because we're 12 foot high and I really wanted that strength. Not to mention, you needed to go to a 2x8 because we were doing 24 inches on center. And frankly, I wasn't going to do 12 foot high walls with only 2x4s or 2x6s. And having to go 16 inches on center sucks, because you start having all of that thermal bridging going on where you're losing your heat loss through your studs. So by using less studs, you actually can save a little bit of money depending on the size of your build, because if you're not buying 100 2x6s and you're only having to buy, let's say, 75 2x8s, it actually ends up being a little bit cheaper depending on when you go and look at lumber pricing. So I'm not sad that we use the 2x8s. I think we're going to get better strength, and I think we're still going to get better insulation overall because you've got 24-inch cavities now. But he gave me the go-ahead that we can spray foam actually, because again, all of my wires are set back far enough that if we put 3 inches of foam in there, we're not going to hinder the electrician. The only thing that stinks is we've got to get the electric buttoned up, because I really want to get these soffits on, start looking at siding, and I can't do that until the electrician inspects the soffit lights. So the only thing left to do in here is putting in the switch in the box over there, which I can't remember if I showed you guys these or not, but these are the boxes that I ended up going with. Says made in Canada, and they are Inexo, I-N-E-X-O, specifically made for ICF. So as you can see, they're a heck of a lot shorter than a standard box, because obviously a standard box is usually fitting into an area of about 3.5 inches for a 2x4 versus ICF that's only fitting in about 2 5/8. So these guys will get cut out into the wall. You can nail them or screw them into the ICF bracing there, but if you don't have any bracing nearby, which really isn't a possibility since they're 8 inches on center, they've got these push out like studs here. Once you get it into the wall, you push from the inside, these spikes come out, jam into the ICF, and you push hard enough until you hear a loud click, and then basically they're locked in and they're not going anywhere. So if you don't hit a stud, you've got 2 spikes on each side, and you cannot pull these things out. They weren't that much more expensive than other boxes that I have seen, like that 3 gang right there was only about $8 and some change. Luckily you only need a few in the house really, and only 1 in the garage, so not a big deal. But we've got to finish the wiring up there, dropping down into the box, and then I need my father-in-law to come out to help me out with the panel so that we can get the electrician out here and do this, because when it comes to the panel, I don't really know what I'm doing. So obviously all of the outlets need wired to a breaker, all of the lights need wired to a breaker. He still needs to put the extra GFI box here. We want to go ahead and do the 240. What I'm assuming the electrician will pass us for the garage is if we at least pipe all of the wiring from the basement out here, bring it up, and get all of this up to code. It doesn't really matter where those wires are going into the basement if they're just sitting in there and going to nothing. At least as he looks at this, he can go, okay, garage is good, cover up your soffits, go ahead and put on your drywall. There's nothing else that I have to inspect. I'll just be back out when you guys are ready for the basement inspection so I can see where those wires are going, and then I can approve that. So hopefully this weekend, my father-in-law can come out, we get that buttoned up real quick, and then we can start getting the spray foamers out here, ordering drywall, and ordering our metal ceiling. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, this is just kind of a midweek video, nothing too special, but I'm super excited to show it. Not only is the inside of the house finally dry, but we've failed and we passed our first inspection over a 2-day period. So pretty quick and easy, which I'm surprised because our county is usually pretty booming. And I didn't think they would be that fast. I have called twice and been like, can I schedule an inspection? And they're like, yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. Oh. Cool, that's quick and easy. I don't have to wait like 3 weeks for something, which is kind of what I was afraid to have happen. So again, I hope you guys liked the video. Please like, subscribe, share as always. If you guys got any questions, just keep throwing those comments as you do. And to everyone else on Instagram, if you need to personal message us and ask us questions, it's NeckofTheWoods 2020, and we can be a little bit more private over there. But hope you guys enjoyed. And again, take care. We'll see you next time.